Hey guys, this is Mel, and I'm back to talk about Supernatural, episode 1513, titled Destiny's Child, which premiered Monday, March 23rd, 2020 on the CW. I'm recording 35 minutes after the episode has aired, so huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episode already, please go do so first, and then come back and see what I have to say about the episode. Otherwise, my other video reminders are up on screen, so take a moment to remind yourselves of those. I'm not going to time myself this time. I just know that I can't go over 25 minutes because Manifest is on in 25 minutes, and I really don't want to go over that time. So let's get right started into it. But first off, before we continue, I just want to clarify. I know in my previous video, I made the question of whether or not what was happening with the whole meteor shower thing that descended upon Radio Shed. I completely missed the fact that at the beginning of the episode, it said Earth 2 just before Chuck goes into Radio Shed to do his whole multiple screens monologue speech thing. And then I'd wonder at the very end, did he only do certain spots? Because I assumed it was on Earth 1 that was happening on. So the fact that he had a whole meteor shower coming down as if when the dinosaurs were wiped out kind of thing going on, makes sense now that he would have that happen on Radio Shed because it was Earth 2, just another of the Earths that he was wiping out. So just clarify the fact of that. I didn't see it until I saw another video reaction for the episode from Abnormally Adam. Thankfully, he showed the part of the episode where the title card popped up, so I could see for myself that it did say Earth 2. So just a little clarifying there. But otherwise, let's move into it. Timeline-wise, I think this is happening shortly after the events of 1512. Maybe like the day after or so. Because I think for the Winchesters at the very, if I remember correctly, at the very end of the episode, it's when they were just being told by Billy that they were the messengers of God's destruction. And then I'm assuming the next time we see them is when we do in this episode. So I'm assuming maybe it's like a day, at least 24 hours between, maybe, because they're definitely wearing different clothes. So there is that. Sorry, I can already feel my throat going. Episode reminder of the fact that not only do you get double the Winchesters, so you get two versions of Sam and Dean, but it's also kind of like the family affair because you have Danielle and Jen coming back to play Sister Joe and Ruby, not only in scenes together, but also scenes against the Winchesters or Castiel. So that is something there. I think it's the first time we're seeing Sister Joe in this. Yeah, in this season's first time. We definitely haven't seen Ruby officially since season 4 finale. I'm not going to count French Mistake in season 6 since that's technically not Ruby in that one. So there is that reminder. But let's go into the storylines or the episode breakdowns, if you will. I'm going to count them as two different ones. The first one being locating the occultum, and the second one is trying to trick Chuck. He's not in the episode, but like they had a plan to kind of ensure that they're able to, so that he's not aware of what they're trying to do. But I'll get more into that afterwards. But the first storyline with locating the occultum, this is brought on by Billy because she has come to tell Jack what his next trial is in order to get stronger against Chuck. Apparently this next trial is supposed to be more spiritual, and it has to deal with this hidden item called the occultum. So now, since it's been lost to them, the team is now trying to figure out where to find this thing. Now, through Castiel's contact in the shaman Sergei, not shown again, they find out that Sister Joe was the last one to have had the occultum in her hands. They go to Sister Joe. She tells them that she actually gave it to Ruby as part of their little team up thing, and that Ruby is the one who actually hid it. And Sister Joe also tells them, well, if Ruby hid it, chances are it's going to be in hell. So Sam and Dean go to hell only to find out there's a trap. But because while this is happening, Castiel is not really trusting of Sister Joe. So instead, he wants, with Jack's help, to go to the empty so he can actually talk to Ruby himself. Because as you know, when demons finally die, they go to the empty afterwards. So he is able to get the true location of the occultum. So they travel to a church, which is guarded by hellhounds, which he forgot to mention. But there they find this, the occultum. Jack ends up consuming it, as the Enochian scripture has stated, only then to have himself transported to the garden, where he is tested spiritually if he is the one that is meant to find the garden. and he's put through a trial itself by this talking snake. So there's that. Side question though, was that supposed to be the same church used in episode 823 when Sam was trying to purify Crowley? Or is that supposed to be the church that Ruby was actually killed in 422? I don't know. I don't want to say that all churches look the same, but the setup of where it was located, like in the middle of nowhere, kind of had me reminded of those two potential big known church locations in the show. So there's that. So I'll talk about what happens with Jack in the garden in a moment, but going to the storyline 2, which is tricking Chuck. This is where we get the AU Winchesters, or the alternate, or the doppelganger Winchesters. We see them at the very beginning of the episode trying to come through a rift to escape their own world from being destroyed, and they come in their car. I believe it's a Beetle. I don't know anything about cars except for the Impala because of the show. But anyway, so they come in only to be pulled back into the world, and then suddenly, when trying to escape again in the midst of their world being blown, they got stuck between dimensions. So while we can see their like shadowy figures, they can't see them until ultimately our team creates their own little door to allow them through. And the reason why they wanted to allow them through was so that these other doppelgangers could pretend to be our versions of the Winchesters, just in case Chuck were to tune in to the bunker to see what's going up. So they just needed them to be lazy and just be as authentically in front of a computer and drinking some beer. So we got something there, but we also learned a little bit more of how things were done in their world, which I'll talk about later. But we also had them also analyzing how our Winchesters do things here, which I will talk about after, but there is that. Last scene of the episode shows Jack having his soul returned to him after his trip to the garden and his test there, being very remorseful over what happened with Mary, and he's begging for their forgiveness for his part in her death. And he was even saying, like, I know what it was like to lose my mother. I can't believe I couldn't understand what I had put Sam and Dean through when he had killed Mary, type of thing. So it's like more of like an emotional overload now, or what he should have felt when it happened 2 seasons ago. No, it was only last season, wasn't it? Right? Jeez. Okay, up on screen will be the episode where Mary actually died. It's either end of season 14 or it was end of season 13. I'm pretty sure it's 13 because as of season 14 is when they were trying to detain him, I think. Wow. This containment thing is messing with my memory, I think. Anyways, there's that. Tidbit-wise, let's move on to that. We found out from Billy that Chuck is almost done destroying all the other worlds before he's going to come down and do the same to our Earth 1, quotes. Not really sure if he's actually... Again, I'm still not sure if he's actually destroying the planet or if he's just destroying all life on the planet and then just letting the planet be like barren and something, or if he's actually destroying the actual mass itself. So that was a side question there. But also tidbit, another one is the fact that Dean has the plan that if Jack is meant to kill Chuck, then he thinks that Jack is going to have to kill Amara too in order to keep the balance when Chuck is killed. Because that was the whole issue at the end of season 11, that they couldn't kill Amara because that would ruin the balance, the cosmic balance. And then also Chuck couldn't die when Amara tried to kill him because that would also upset the balance as well too. So Dean is realizing that, well, if they really are going to kill Chuck, then they're going to have to kill Amara too to maintain that balance. Plus also you don't want a vengeful Amara on you for killing her brother. So that was discussed upon between Sam and Dean. Also, we find out that Rowena, the Queen of Hell, is giving a reception to all the new souls that have entered into Hell. So we don't see her. We thought we would, but we didn't. But that's apparently what she has going for it in Hell. Apparently, that demon is kind of like not pleased with that route. But there's that. Also, we find out that the MT wants to go back to sleep. It's tired of being awake, which is what this whole situation is dealing with when regards to Chuck. So he or she, they, the the MT is teaming up with Death so that by eliminating this Chuck situation, the MT could go back to sleep, courtesy of Death making sure that happens. Castiel seemed very, very drawn to that whole speech. It seems like he was surprised that Death would be able to have a hold on the MT or be able to put the MT to sleep like it wants. I don't know, but it's definitely something there. I think it's a little bit more than what we're seeing in regards to that dynamic there, but that's something there. And then also, I don't know if I got a call when this part was happening, but Ruby was explaining how the MT works with Castiel, even though he knows how the whole thing goes down. But I think she explained it as it being an endless sleep where the angels and the demons are constantly reliving all their past regrets over and over again. I think that's how she explained it, which kind of contradicts what I thought the MT was about, which is why I'm doubting if that's what she said. Was I thought the MT was a dreamless sleep and like an empty void, and you're just there doing nothing. You're asleep, so like you're not aware of what's happening to you, around you, anything. But what I think Ruby has said is kind of contradicts that. So I'm not sure what was truly said. Hopefully by the time I edit this and you're seeing it, more about the episode is going to be up on the internet for me to research and verify. But at this moment, with only 45 minutes after the episode is aired, not much is going to be up. So there's that. End tally or death tally, surprising fact is we don't actually see a murder on screen. I mean, I'm not going to count Castiel's almost death, because again, almost. I mean, you could technically include all the multiple worlds that Chuck is destroying. Again, it's off screen, so I wouldn't normally count that. But otherwise, there's no actual death on screen in this episode. So that's something there. But moving on to the most shocking moment of the episode, I think I'd have to be not only was the fact that we got to see Meg again. She was posing as the MT. I kind of should have figured that because she was featured in the previously on segment or the then segment, as well as with a bunch of pizza references. Understandably with the Pizza Man comment, but I don't get why they showed every other time that pizza was consumed on the show. But that was a surprise to see her then. Granted, I wasn't paying attention to the credits, so if Rachel's name had popped up, it completely went over my head for that. But another shocking thing was the fact that Jack, when he ate the occultum, which was funny, but the fact that it transported him to the garden, that was a huge shock there. First off, the shock was to find out that the occultum was actually supposed to be the safest place on Earth, and then to find out that it was the original garden from the Bible. That was a surprise there. Well, it was a really beautiful place though too. Was it meant to be the garden that we saw Joshua in the Heaven episode in 5:16? Was that meant to be the same place, or was that meant to be like a representation or manifestation of what this true garden is all about? So that's something there. Moving on to familiar faces very quickly, we get Billy once again as Death, obviously, but we get Sister Joe, we get Ruby, and then we get Meg, who is actually the MT posing as Meg, but we still get her again regardless. So we get Lisa, Danielle, Jen, and Rachel. Awesome familiar faces there. So there's that. I mean, Meg was the surprise one too. Billy was kind of expected because she is part of the main storyline. And then Sister Joe and Ruby, they were mentioned in the synopsis. So that was kind of expected as well. And how they were though, I'm glad it wasn't just for like one scene. They were in multiple scenes. So I appreciate that. But moving on to top 3 favorite moments. My favorite has to be the what we learned about the other world or the alternate reality of Winchesters. The fact that we find out that they are paid hunters for Hunter Corp, which was created by their father. And they are hunters that work worldwide with 2 pilots on standby. So there's that. They have trust funds. They are both impressed by the Impala, even though they drive a Beetle. And by the end of their experience posing as our boys, they have a growing love of the plaid. Alternate Sam views his hair as sacred with a man bun. So there's that. We found out that they do not drink beer at all, and is something that John would not have in the house whatsoever. We also do find out that the boys and John went through the rift together, but they got separated somehow in their interdimensional travels. So there's that. That would have, imagine if we saw John's imprint in the between dimension and stuff. Huh. But anyways, that was fun learning all the little tidbits about them. It was also great seeing them understand what our Winchester's lives are and the simplicity behind it, and then truly like finding comfort. Like they even say like they have it made here. It's like just sitting around doing nothing, no one to report to, no one to organize. Like it was just them sitting back on the internet, drinking beer and having a moment to themselves and having the bunker to themselves. So it was very interesting to see them kind of being envious of our Winchester's lives, when on the other hand, our Winchesters were envious of them having money and getting paid and being able to do their job with a whole bunch of people backing them up and everything. So that was kind of fun there for sure. Just having them interact with each other as well too was very entertaining to see. Usually it's always monsters we always see them being opposite themselves. The only other time it was actual versions of themselves was Future Dean or Hallucination Sam's, like in season 6 episode 22, Future Dean and 504. And then now these guys, every other time it's always been a shapeshifter or a manifestation or a hallucination because of a monster or something. So it was very interesting to get a different version of the brothers. So there's that. Another favorite I did have was Jack's trip to the garden. It was the aesthetics of it was very well done. I also like the fact that we got a bunch of Jack montage moments and memories with his trip there and him being overloaded with them, and then during his spiritual trial. And then I really like the fact that him going through all that resulted in him getting his soul back, and then him reacting to all the emotions he should have felt when he first lost his soul. So I do appreciate all that. It had to be season 14 because Apocalypse Michael was killed in 14. Yes. Right? Yeah. Okay. So there's that. So I do really like the journey for Jack in this regard, and how him going to the garden, the fact that he's the only, no humans are allowed to go, and yet he was able to go through and maybe be the only one that was meant to find the garden. So I just like the implications behind that. I like what he took away from all that. So it was pretty good. I wonder if the occultum is still inside of him or if it was a one-use only type of thing, but we'll have to wait and see about that. Another thing I really liked was the contradicting stories that we got from Sister Joe and Ruby. I like that we got Joe's version. We tried to follow through with it, and then we got to Ruby. She told a very different story about that. Give me one moment. So I really like how, when we get Ruby's part of it, we see a huge difference in the retelling of it. So I really appreciated that. I like that in the end, Ruby actually did tell us the truth about where the occultum was, which is kind of weird because we're trusting a demon over trusting an angel, and the angel is the one that pretty much backstabbed us and trying to get demons to kill Sam and Dean when they went to hell on her order. So that was something there as well. Plus, it was just very interesting to see both Joe and Ruby playing off each other in both different retellings of the same tale. So that was something there. Moving on to top 3 peeve moments. The only peeve I actually have in this episode is the fact that the alternate Winchesters had to leave the bunker and go somewhere else. I mean, it would have been fun to see a little bit. Like, I know logically it'd be a lot more work for Jared and Jensen to have to play twice the amount of roles, because they'd have to play alternate versions of them and the regular versions of them. But just the idea of them just staying in the bunker and just like having their own room and maybe coming out every few episodes or so, or maybe saying like, oh nope, they're out on a hunt doing this and that type of thing. But to have them leave is kind of like, I'm a little sad, but then I get why. So that's the only peeve I really had. But moving on to random questions very quickly. First one being, shouldn't the alternate Winchesters be kept in the loop with the other hunters just so that there's no like shapeshifter mishap occurring with other hunters believing that these alternate Winchesters are actually shapeshifters and try to kill them. And instead letting them know, like, hey, these are Winchesters from another world, so kind of like hang back when it comes to them type of thing. I'm wondering if they even discussed that at all. Also, there is the question of whether or not are there going to be any side effects to the fact that there's two versions of the same people on the same Earth, kind of similar to what the Arrowverse had to deal with on Batwoman, where there was two versions of Beth Kane on the same Earth, and there was repercussions for that. I'm wondering if something similar is going to happen to that with our Sam and Dean and alternate Sam and Dean. So that's something there. And another question is, will Castiel uphold his deal with Ruby to get her out of the MT? Third question, Castiel's deal with the MT was brought up again between him and Jack, and kind of with the MT as well. I'm wondering, do you think that will play a factor soon in the remaining episodes, or is that something we're going to see come to fruition in the series finale itself? I kind of hope not, but then I kind of think like the season finale would have to be something where he's at his, because he said he'd take him at his up when he's happiest, and I would assume finale, once they've completed everything, that's when he would be happy, and that's where his time would go. I hope not, but I have a feeling that might be the case. Next question though, I wonder what because John is still with the alternate Winchesters still being hunters in their world, and they're in this organization that John created. I'm wondering how they got into hunting, because in order for John to create this organization of hunters that's funded enough to the extent that we're hearing about, he'd have to be pretty level-headed in order to put his genius to work and not be just fueled on revenge. So if revenge isn't what got him into hunting, then I'm wondering what did get them into hunting. Like, because as you know, John was supposed to be a legacy, so he was supposed to be the bookworms in this whole supernatural thing, not the hunters like the Campbells were, or Mary's side of the family. So I'm wondering where, or at least that's what our history has shown, but I'm not sure if how the alternate versions, or maybe it was flipped. Maybe it was the Campbells that were the legacies on that Earth, and it was the Winchesters that were the hunters. Maybe, I don't know. But that was the last question there. But moving on to predictions very quickly, there wasn't actually a promo for the next episode, and like I've been checking on YouTube for the past hour, and it still has not been posted. Hopefully something will be up by the time I edit. If so, it'll be up on screen. But I even double-checked Futon Critic, and the next episode is still set for next week, so I don't know why there's no promo out yet. But based off the synopsis for that episode, it reads, Sam and Dean discover a wood nymph living in the bunker who is determined to protect her family at any cost. I'm excited to meet a wood nymph, but then at the same time, I'm like, why are they in the bunker? Didn't they already do, like, checks to make sure, like, first they had, like, a haunting, then they had the whole Dorothy thing happening. It's like, wouldn't you have checked to make sure the bunker was completely secure from all supernatural entities? And I'm wondering how this wood nymph got through the cracks. So I'm excited to see what that has in store for that. But otherwise, guys, that's pretty much it. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. But let's go through the whole thing. Let me know in the comments down below about your thoughts, theories, and opinions about what happened in this episode. Love to hear about that. Also, if you want to check out my Tumblr page and my WordPress page are links down below. Anything I post online is connected to the two of them. Little organized, still in work in progress though. But with this whole pandemic going on, I might get updated a lot sooner than I had planned. So be on the lookout for that. Also, live journal entry link is linked down below as well. I do jot noted recaps of the episode as I watch them for the first time. It keeps things in line for me. Hopefully it helps you out too. You might not be able to see them publicly right now, but they are written out and they just have to be formatted for you guys to cleanly read them. But there's that. But otherwise, again, pretty much it. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. Hope you come back next week to see what I have to say about the next episode. But until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week wherever you are. Stay safe during this pandemic, and please wash your hands and keep with social distancing. Until then, guys.